Very well. So welcome everyone to the Chevening Scholarship Interview Advice session. I am keenly aware that next week is when all the interviews would start. So congratulations for coming up to this stage. I'd like to introduce myself and my colleagues. So the three of us put this together. My name is Tian Yan. I'm a Chevening Scholar from 2019-2020. And for the Chevening Alumni Malaysia, that's what CAM stands for. I'm the honorary secretary. So I'm one of the person that's actually presenting this session today. I would like to ask Fyza and Myelone to also stand by to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Tian Yan. Hi, everyone. My name is Fyza. I'm a Chevening Scholar for 2015-2016 batch. I did Human Rights Law in Queen Mary, University of London. And I am currently the committee member for Chevening Alumni Malaysia. Over to you, Mylan.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations to every one of you who made this far. My name is Myelone. I'm a Chevening Scholar from the 2018-2019 cohort. I am currently a CAM committee member for the year 2020 to 2022.
We're going to take the first 10 minutes to cover some ground. I'll be presenting that session, and then we'll leave as much time as possible for Fyza and Myelone to also answer questions, because we know that everyone has unique circumstances and you have some unique questions based on what we see in the survey. I would like to ask for Yasmin, in case from BHC side, is there any announcements you want to make known to the audience that we have here today? Yasmin?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Tian Yan and the other alumni for setting up this session. At the moment, I don't have any announcements to make, but I'll be here at the end of the session to help answer any of the questions. So thank you very much.
Very good. Okay, without further ado, get some note paper and a pen ready. We're going to go fast and furious. Very well. So it all starts with preparation. I write here that their task is to have 20 minutes to make an impression on teams. And I understand, of course, that you're given 30 minutes, but time will fly right by. And therefore, you have to target that if all you have is 20 minutes, you're there to make an impression virtually. So it's a very interesting challenge that you have today. The good news is the impression has somewhat been made because you have all been selected based on the virtues of your essays. Now they want to see the real person, and your job is to make the stories in your essays come alive. As part of preparation, it's very key for you to decide who you want to show up as a leader. Don't just wait for things to happen to you. Decide that you're going to lead. Why? Because the intent is very important. There's a lot of uncertainty from this point on, and there's also a lot of obstacles as well. You're still waiting for your university offers. Maybe some of you have gotten some rejections. Some of you are waiting. Some of you are just waiting for that conditional offer to become an unconditional one. You might be thinking about whether or not your employer will let you go and have a career break, and would they take you back later on. For those of you who have family, being away from your children, from your elderly parents can be challenging. And for those of you who want to bring the family along for the trip, or might even be managing a pregnancy, and then now you have to think about vaccination, not just for your little one, but for yourself as well. And some of you may be thinking that you've been away from school for too long. My advice is this: do not project future problems into present time. This is your time now. You don't get any do-overs. So just concentrate for that 20 minutes and be the best person that you can be. After the interview, you can freak out all you want. Please get your stories ready. Now, my advice is stop looking at your essays. It will stress you out, because if all you look at your essays, you see a lot of words. Start breaking them down now into stories. If you've seen a previous version of our session on how to write essays, you would have organized your essays into themes already. So remember, when you write essays, it's meant for the eyes because they'll be read. But when you craft interview responses, they're meant for the ears because they're going to be heard. So you have to make sure that you have shorter responses. Make your stories clear and concise so that you can retell them with fervor and passion. And by the way, if you don't know where to start and how to tell your stories, you can start with a template. For leadership and networking, you can use the STAR format, which is situation, task, action, result, reflection. Just use that template as a start off point to craft your stories. And when you talk about studying in the UK or career, you can use SMART, and you've heard of it before: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. That will make sure that your stories are concise and also complete. Because it's done virtually, make sure you test your technology. And I think you can use this session as one of the lessons learned. We want to make sure that you manage all of your technology, internet access, your audio, your video, your lighting. Make sure you back up your mobile devices and make sure you also have Teams installed there, just in case everything else fail. Some of you haven't thought about going into a hotel to use the internet connection there. And I'll caution you that the internet connection in hotels may not be as good either. Whatever you do, make sure you have some kind of preparation and redundancy. Last but not least, prepare your environment. Make sure that you're in a quiet room. Let the babysitter handle the kids. Make sure you're fully dressed professionally. Make sure you have your makeup on. And if you're a guy, I won't judge. All right. Some of you would like lip gloss as well. Have all your documents printed out. Don't keep anything in digital form. And because it's actually virtual, some of us can actually make use of that opportunity and put our notes on the walls as well. Not that you're going to read them, but just so you have peace of mind that you know what your next cue would be. So preparation is very important because your intent is critical. During the interview, they can tell if your mind is elsewhere or whether you really want the scholarship or not. Very key. This is a this is how you actually get your stories ready. You would have remembered by now that you can probably have your themes organized and therefore you can just speak from the themes. Make sure you practice your stories multiple times, rehearse it, tell it to your friend, tell it to yourself again. And so when you get the question about your essays, you're just pulling out from your memory, you're just pulling out from the themes. You're not pulling out from the essays and going through the words one at a time. Now, as you open and you're invited into the interview, you probably heard that the quote in 2020 is, "Can you hear me? Can you see my video?" And that's not how you're going to show up. Make sure that you lead from the very beginning. Here's an example. "Hello, how are you? My name is Tian Yan. If you can hear my audio and see me on screen, give me a nod and say yes." And your panelists will probably go nodding like this and say yes. Nodding to who? They don't know. Now this is leading. So to make your impression virtually, you cannot be passive. You must lead the session. Make sure you use names. It's very hard to make an impression when you're all doing this virtually. So remember the names of the panelists. You have 3 of them. Have good eye contact with the camera to approximate good eye contact in person. Ask for your panelists to introduce themselves. "Could you please tell me your name so I may address you properly?" Panelist number 1 may say, "My name is Sylvia." Then you say, "Sylvia, clarify." And she says, "Yes." Second panelist may say, "I am Yasmin." Yasmin. Yes, that's correct. Third panelist may say, "I am Patrick." Patrick. Yes, that's right. You want to practice using your names because I'm sure they have already looked through so many different essays and they've probably sat through so many different interviews. And we all love our names. So make sure you get it right. And when you do it this way, when you do it this way, okay, so one part of the slide was missing. So when you do it this way, now you're pacing and leading. Next, good. Next, it's time to introduce yourself. Keep it to 3 to 4 sentences. Keep it short, keep it brief, and remember to pause. Rehearse your delivery and role play with someone. Common mistake that everyone makes is that because of the nerves, and it's perfectly okay to be very excited, you rush through the whole thing. So tell yourself, nice and slow. If it helps, you can play music, instrumental music in the background during your practice. One that I like to pick is from the Pirates of the Caribbean when there's epic music playing in the background. And read to it. "My name is Tian Yan. I'm 33 years old and I'm happily married. I spent 9 years of my career in IT doing everything from software engineering, project management, and business analysis. I'm looking to make a career transition in my life, and this is a great opportunity to shift gears and pursue my master's in data science. I would have played the music on the spot right now. It's just that I found out that it didn't appear very well. But when you read this and play it with music in the background, you naturally organize each chunk of your words in bars of a music in a certain phrase. And that's how you regulate your tempo. It's a good way for yourself to just prime yourself with that pace. Once you get this part down pat, it will be the same introduction you're going to use again and again for the rest of your life. I've used this during my internship in the UK. I've used this for my job interviews back in Malaysia. So it makes it very easy for you to break the ice. Then comes the essay questions, and you would know this by now. They would say things like, what does leadership mean to you? Or what are your thoughts on networking? Or tell us, what is your study plans in the UK? Or what are your career plans when you return home? So don't be surprised by these questions. You should know these already. Make sure that you're short, concise, and clear. More importantly, answer the question head on. When they ask you, what does leadership mean to you? In the first sentence, you'll be able to say, leadership is taking full ownership for the problem and to make full use of it and use it as an advantage. For example, before you go into your stories, before you elaborate more, you don't have to elaborate too much because if they want more elaboration, they'll say, can you speak more about it? Can you tell us a different story? Most of your examples are those from work, maybe some from your life instead. But this is the start off point. If you were clear and complete in your essays, you wouldn't get those kind of questions where they require more elaboration, right? So just trust yourself in knowing that your stories can be delivered well. Yes, use stories from your essays. Try not to introduce new ones outside of the essays because then there'll be a risk for confusion. Use the ones that's for essays unless they specifically said something which is not already covered in your essays. For example, they might ask, I notice all three choices of universities are outside of London. Can you explain why? And if you haven't covered that in your essays, that's the time for you to elaborate and answer those questions. Remember, they have to take notes. So if you introduce new materials to them, they'll be too busy writing down and they won't be able to listen to you and be as present as they hope they could. Now, don't make the panelists feel like they have to interrupt you. Say your piece, pause, allow them to bring you to the next question. It helps if you make it easy for them to segue from one essay to another. And we talked about this when we were doing essay writing. Try to make sure your ending statement is a segue to the next. If you set that up right, this should be easy. Therefore, if you were in the leadership part of the question and you end with, my experience taught me that technology in the wrong hands can result in spectacular failures. It takes leadership to call out bad behavior, and it takes a team who believes in you to make real change. What was the last word? Team. So then they will say, you mentioned about a team. Well, I'd like to know your thoughts about networking. You make it easy for them to say their part. But when they ask the question, make sure that you don't jump right in. Let them fully finish their sentence. Also, they might ask questions that is just different from what you expected. So listen and clarify. Why? Because if you rush right in thinking that the question is meant for something else, you might exhaust 3 minutes answering a different question and you don't get any do-overs over here. So listen to the question and clarify. Good. Now let's come to the hard questions. I put this segment on hard questions, not because they're difficult to answer, but these are questions that people think about but may not have asked you straight to your face. These are the questions over here. 3 of them has to do with you as the leader. So why me? What are your strengths? And what are your weaknesses? And we get hung up over this. I'll leave it to you to decide how you want to bring your own unique DNA into these answers. When you want to talk about yourself, I would caution you not to go alpha leader and start comparing yourself with others and saying they're the best of the crop. Because first of all, you don't even know who the rest of the people are. I would suggest that you talk about what you intend to offer and let them choose you based on those merits. Remember, there will be 30 of you that will be chosen, or 30 to 39. So you're a team. They want a good diversity. If you feel like you have a really tough time trying to explain why you should be selected, then try talking or try talking and practicing very naturally as if you're talking to a friend, right? You can practice it this way. Hey man, at the end of the day, you got to do what feels right for you. But I'll tell you this, I will carry out everything that I said I would do. And that's how you draw some materials from yourself, because you might be just overly intimidated. But do this during the practice. Do not deliver it like this during the interview. Finally, I will say something about weaknesses. Sometimes people will take weaknesses and try to change that into a strength. Don't do that. Be careful about the phrasing. If you care a lot about a project, don't say that your weakness is you care too much. Because what you really mean would be, it's hard not to take something too personally sometimes, and that's something I have to be mindful of. Not everyone is criticizing me, but because I care about the project, I have to be mindful that other people have different angles about how things have happened. So for myself, I would say, well, I'm one of the kind of person that's very easily distracted. I have to be very focused and on point. So be honest and make sure that you can show your maturity along the way. Second group of hard questions has to do with studying. So why the UK? Why this subject? Why now? And this should have fully been elaborated inside your studying in the UK essays. I will say something about why now, and let that be a mark on how you should actually answer the question. When it comes to urgency of why you have to do it now, you can choose external reasons, such as there are events in the world that has caused it to be a very good opportune time for you to take action. Or you can go for internal reasons, such as I'm at the point in my life where this makes sense for me. You can even answer, if not now, then when? There's never a good time, and I choose to do it now. So don't get too hung up about the question. Just consider what your reasons are. And if you can tie it with some kind of external events, the better for you. Finally, last questions has to do with contribution. And most people don't think about this much. No, they won't ask you a question about what you intend to contribute. But if they're going to compare you with one candidate and the other person just have a lot more contribution, it's very clear who they're going to pick. So have some thoughts about how you intend to contribute to the Chevening community. Think about how the UK will benefit. Look at what their agendas, look at what is on their targets and goals on international level, and think about how it can benefit your home country as well. Now, finally, these are not hard questions, so don't be stumped. What do you look forward in the UK? Just tell them. Food is a good choice. What do you anticipate will be challenging? Well, the master's program is very aggressive. Think of your own reasons. There are no right or wrong answers to this question. All right, so let's wrap up. At the end of your interview, you get to ask your questions. This is a great time to ask your logistical questions, such as whether you want to change your choice of universities, whether or not you have visa concerns. This is a good time to ask them. But also use this opportunity to ask selfless questions. And here are a few examples. How can you contribute? How can you be an ambassador for the Chevening cohort in the UK? Or you intend to volunteer somewhere already? Maybe you just need to ask for a few contacts to help you make the connection. Very important. That's how you stand out. Now, finally, as a closing statement, this is where we say thank you, bye-bye, bye-bye. Well, don't waste this opportunity. You could try. I know the last year has been stressful for many people, especially people in your jobs. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. If there's anything I can do to step up and support you or my cohort, please call me. Well, what could you do to help? Well, the point is, if you never offered, you never know. And this is a very important thing because leaders step up. Now, I've been an alumni for some time now, and this is just something that irks me. Nothing irks me more when someone gets up on their high horse and say things like, as a future leader or as a chosen one, and then they complain about something in a self-righteous way like it's their entitlement. So you are going to be a future leader, and the world is complex and there'll be many voices. Now, I'm proud that Malaysian Cheveners have represented their countries well. So the label future leader is a badge of honor. We do not flaunt it. We do not use it in vain. And when you get awarded this badge of honor, you wear it well. And that's why consider for a moment what a leader is for yourself and use that as your closing. Now with that, I'd like to wrap up. The recording will be available in the Chevening Alumni Malaysia YouTube channel. You can also find us in socials. And if you ever thought about participating to be a Chevening alumni after you finish the program, I'd just like to let you know that it's just 100 ringgit membership fee for life. And with that, I'd like to open the Q&A session. I'll ask for Yasmin to help to moderate and for Myelone and Fyza to help us with these questions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I hope you can hear me. So if you have a question, please feel free to turn on your camera and turn on your mic as well. So first of all, as Teh Tian Yan has kindly shared, I would like to share that for the interview process, please do keep your cameras on, as we will need to verify your identity. Please have your Chevening application number on hand. So that is the number that is on your application form. So please do have that as a measure of verification for us. As for the references, I think you should have uploaded them onto the system by the 22nd of February. But if there is some issues with that, you can also email kl.chevening@fco.gov.uk. I will then share this in the chat box. So you can email us at kl.chevening@fco.gov.uk. So we will be able to help you pass the references to the interview panel if there is any problems with the system. I'd also like to clarify that you are able to change your universities up to your interview date. So you will not be able to change your your university choices after your interview date. So please come prepared. If you want to change the universities from your application form, that is the very last day you can change them. We will not be able to consider, a fourth university, because the 3 universities that you share latest by your interview date are the ones that we will check when you receive your offers if you are selected for the scholarship. Now, I also like to highlight the last steps after the interview. So I think for the interview itself, Teh Tian Yan has presented a very extensive and great presentation. So after the interview, we will be emailing you the results by 15th of July. So we will be emailing you from June to July of the results. So the ones who are selected will receive the successful email. The ones who are not selected, there's 2 kinds of emails that you could receive. The first one is that you are on a reserve list. The second one is on the rejected list. So you will either be receiving one of 3 kinds of emails by the Secretariat. So the London Secretariat are the ones who will be emailing you regarding your results. So I think that's it from me. So if there's any other questions, please share either in the chat box or you can share verbally. So I'll just have a look at the chat box. So the first question I'll share that this interview session is actually for Malaysians. Malaysians interview sessions are going to be conducted online via Teams. For all of the countries, it really depends on the Secretariat of that country. So if you are not a Malaysian here, please do email your embassies for the answer to that question. Okay. So on the note of preparation, are we allowed to share PowerPoint slides during the interview? So no, we will only be seeing what you have presented verbally or via video. We will not be able to accept any other document during or after the session. So you only have those, half an hour to make a good impression without relying on other materials. Thank you very much.
I have a question actually regarding you.
Sure.
Okay, so the question is, so how much are applicants are expected to know about the UK or the UK Chevening or UK Malaysia relations? Because from a lot of the tips and videos that I've seen on YouTube during the interview process, usually applicants are asked about kind of like UK Malaysia or UK Chevening relations. So how much of that is from your experience? How much of that was actually asked in the interview process?
So I'll take on this question and then I'll pass it to the other alumni for their experiences. But I'd like to share that it's not necessary to know extensively about UK-Malaysia relations. What I would recommend is knowing generally about the relations in your industry. So we won't be looking outside of your industry. So for instance, if you are looking to do a master's in environmental science, then it would be great if you were to read up about UK-Malaysia relations in the field of environmental science. But again, it's not a necessary requirement for you to know. But it will be, impressive if you were to share, some of the work that you think UK has done well in, or that Malaysia has done well in, because the UK also wants to learn from Malaysia. So it's a two-way communication. So I'd like to pass this question on to Fyza and Myelone, who are our alumni, if they had to answer these questions during their interview and what was their experiences.
Okay, I'll start first. Thanks, Yasmin. For this type of question, for me, because I did law, I actually had to describe a little bit about the difference between the legal system. So just to echo what Yasmin have said, just be prepared to know in your particular area or the course that you're planning to do, what are the differences or what can you actually learn further if you actually pursue your master's in the UK. I think that's all from me. Myelone, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that during my time, I was asked on why did you choose Chevening and not any other particular scholarship. So I think if the more you know about Chevening and what Chevening is all about, and I think this is a great sort of point to sort of express and to let them know about how much you know about Chevening and what's Chevening all about, and the interviewer might be impressed with your sort of knowledge and yeah, I think I would also say they have programs like the Best of British and things like that, a lot of programs. So if, the more you know about it, I think it will be in your advantage.
Hi. Hi, my name is Alphys. I actually have a question for Yasmin. Yasmin, thanks for bringing up on the university change option. How do we actually do that?
Sure. So you're
Thanks.
able to access this online, but if for any reason you are unable to change your universities online, you can also email us at kl.chevening@fco.gov.uk. You can just list down the new universities that you'd like, or alternatively, we will be asking you this question at the interviews itself. So on the interview day, at the very end of the session, we'll ask you to confirm your university choices. So again, you can either do it on the system, you can email us, or you can verbally share this during your interview session. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yasmin,
Thanks so much.
Can you repeat the email again? I think it's a bit too fast.
Sure, I'm so sorry. I'll add that in the chat box as well in a little while. It's kl.chevening@fco.gov.uk.
All right, thank you.
There was a question in the chat box, a little bit more technical, so maybe you need your help, Yasmin. Do I still need to sit for my IELTS despite already receiving an unconditional offer from the universities applied? What's the policy for this year? This question came from Gurmesh.
Thank you very much. So for IELTS, actually, Chevening has done away with that requirement. So anything regarding IELTS will depend on the university's decision. So if you already have an unconditional offer, I would suggest you to email your university, share that you might have had 20 years of experience in the education system in Malaysia, which is based in English, and they might actually waive your need to sit for IELTS. Unfortunately, some universities might still require IELTS, so I recommend you to sit for the IELTS test as quickly as possible if your university requires you to do it. But for Chevening, we do not look at your IELTS results. We do not need them. So if your university is kind enough to waive that, we have no issues.
Thank you, Yasmin. There's a question from Mohanad Al-Kafaji. Can you elaborate more about the activities and nature of interaction inside the Chevening community in the UK? Very broad question, but a good one. I'll ask Myelone and Fyza to share a little bit of their experience.
Myelone, do you want to take this first?
Yeah, sure. So the other day when I was listening to the talk on Clubhouse, I sort of sympathized with the previous cohort because they were saying where they had 50% virtual and 50% were able to attend the events. Whereas during my batch, where there was, there was no pandemic, I think that was one of my, life-changing experience, being able to sort of mix a network with those 1,800 different cohort from the rest of the world, because Chevening had, so they also want to introduce applicants, Cheveners to British culture, and they also try to organize events where they allow Cheveners to network. So these were great platforms, to sort of, I took that opportunity to sort of travel, to meet people, and to also attend numerous events, like, really good events organized by Chevening. And one of the advantages by going to this sort of events is, that's what Chevening is all about, the leadership, networking part. And, to be able to meet, colleagues or friends, in your field or in a different field, and to sort of, to speak to them on any issue. And I think that is a great way that I think there were events called the Best of British, Chevening Travels, Chevening Talks, and I really enjoyed them. And that was part of an interesting chapter of the whole Chevening scholarship.
To add to what Myelone have just said, there are also events organized by the University Scholarship for Chevening itself. So your program officer assigned for your respective universities will also create events within your Chevening communities within your university. And for me, my experience that I think I fondly remember is that attending Chevening conference, where they in Birmingham, where they actually asked about a number of people, a number of Chevening scholars from all over UK to just come to Birmingham and participate in the Chevening conference and to discuss about the current issues, and also participate in volunteering events such as London marathons and also helping the needy. So yeah, I think that's all. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Fyza and Myelone. There's quite a few questions about this topic, and I'll take this interesting one. This is from Shakira and also from Mandy. So Mandy asks, if we secured an unconditional offer from our university of choice, from our first choice, is it necessary to apply for the second and third? Shakira also asked that you have listed 3 uni, but you applied for 1, got 1 conditional offer. Is it necessary to apply for the other 2? I'm going to give you my take on this because I was awarded the Chevening Scholarship twice. First year, I failed to get any university placements. Okay, things can happen. You never know. And it's only in the second year that I managed to secure 1 university placement out of 3. So if you have already secured something, good. Nothing bad with having choices. All right, just to be safe on that side. Next question. Do I need to change the sequence of my preferred universities in the system if I wish to select my second choice? Yasmin, this question came from Izati Kamal.
Sure, I'm happy to help answer. So yes, you will need to arrange the order of universities in order that you'd like to attend them. So for instance, if you'd like to go to University X followed by Y and Z, please reflect that on the application system. If you cannot do this for any reason, you can email us again at the email and we will help do it for you. Another thing that I think is quite a technical question is why some universities are not on the list. If the university and course that you choose are not on the list, it doesn't mean that we are not able to approve it. It could just mean that it's not reflected in the system. So again, you can email us to ask if we would approve that course in that university or not. As long as the course is actually a 1 year's master's fully in the UK by an accredited UK university, it should be fine. We just aren't able to accept courses that may take place partly in Europe or elsewhere, or courses that are actually beyond 1 year's length. So that might be the reason why it's not in the system. But in any course-related questions, you can always email us and we're happy to elaborate further.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. There's one interesting question. I'm going to give my colleagues a pop quiz. So Lieutenant Chan asked, out of curiosity, how many people were shortlisted for the interview this year? Fyza, Myelone, what's your best guess?
No idea, but I'm guessing I have come across a few articles saying that there have been a record number of applicants year on year ever since I joined. So I'm going to guess somewhere around the range of 100, 200.
100, 200. Fyza?
100 to 150.
100, 250. Yasmin, what's the real answer?
So we received roughly around 700 applications this year, and we will be interviewing about 110. As for the allocation for the scholars this year, it will be released shortly. So we will be sharing this number after the interviews. But usually per year, there will be between 30 to 40 scholars.
Good, thank you very much. What you should take away from that, if there's 110 shortlisted and it's about 30 who get selected, then your chance is probably 1 in 3. So if there are 3 panelists there, make sure you impress one of them really well, is what I'll say. Next question that I see. Wow,
Hani is actually, sorry, Hani is actually asking a very interesting question, whether turning on camera during interview would actually affect the chances of getting the scholarship. What's your take on that?
Wow. If you can make an impression, people are visual sometimes. Make sure at least they remember your face if they can't remember your name. I can assure you, by the time you get selected, some people don't even remember your name, but they remember your stories. So if you can put a face to that, all the better. Okay, there's one question. I think it's from Key. May I know whether there's any possibility that our interview session might extend beyond the 30 minutes limit? All right. Don't tempt fate. All right. If you're gonna go past the 30-minute limit, it doesn't sound to me like a good interview at all. Right. That's what I would say to it. You're given 30 minutes. Focus on making an impression in 20, and then you can chat about life and the weather and the food and all the other good stuff, and then you feel happy about everyone.
I'll just be jumping on this very quickly. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to accept interviews go beyond the 30-minute limit, partly because we will having to interview a number of applicants per day. So we will need to keep to time as much as possible. So if you do feel like you're rambling on, please just share a conclusion to the sentence and then ask, okay, can we, and then we will let you know to move on to the next question. So we will need to keep to time.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. Fazira asked an interesting question, and I'll ask Fyza and Myelone to also chip in as well. How has the alumni been able to keep connected during COVID, specifically the alumni? How has being a Chevener met your expectations of the alumni community? And what have you gained and been able to contribute in return? Very insightful question. I'll just add one thing first. The current cohort is managing very well despite COVID, and they've even taken upon themselves to really share information on interviews and essays with the rest of you while managing a full-time coursework and everything else that goes along. So those are the people that I know, my hats off to them. For the alumni, Fyza, Myelone, would you like to share a bit of your story, how you keep connected, how has being a Chevener helped you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll start on that first. Basically, what we have is the Chevening Alumni Malaysia as one of the organizers for this session as well. As mentioned by TY earlier, we have a membership for you to join as part of our alumni, and we actually create events from time to time. And I think we are doing quite often during this COVID period as well. And some of the events we are opening it to public, for instance, for this session, and some events are strictly for the CAM members only. And in terms of networking and keeping in touch with each other, I think being in the CAM member itself actually have, for instance, the three of us are from different batches of Chevening, and we actually get to know each other as well as their respective cohorts. And if we need any help to the extent of having someone from different backgrounds, because each batch have different backgrounds, and it's easier in that way because we get to communicate and network through this membership as well. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Myelone?
Well, I just want to say that once you're a Chevener, you're a Chevener for life, right? So it's a big family, and we look to welcome the rest of you to the family. But to answer the question, not just locally. So our camp, we also reach out to the Asian initiative where we are in touch with other CAM associations in Indonesia, Brunei, and stuff like that. But on an individual level as well, I'm still in touch with a lot of my Chevener friends from the rest of the world, right? So they're so diverse, and we're still in touch. And to go back to the point about Cheveners for life, is these are my really good friends, and we're still in touch to the present. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. So I think there's a few technical questions that I'll address quickly. So first of all, is there any penalties, or does it affect the decision of the interviewers if you were to change your course or university? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you want to change your university, that is not a problem. However, if you want to change your course, if it's drastically different than the course that you have selected in your application, then yes, that might leave a slightly negative reflection on the behalf of the interviewer, just because if you are passionate about a field, then most probably you wouldn't change it just for the interview. So yes, to answer that, you can change your university without any issues, but be careful that your course must be in the same field. Are you allowed to do an internship after graduation? I might pass this on to the alumni. So Tian Yan or Fyza or Myelone, do you want to take this on?
Yeah. I personally did an internship for the purpose of dissertation. So I didn't stay around longer, but I used it for dissertation, which was an amazing experience because I was the only one that's billable to the client. So I actually got paid, and I actually did it remotely back in Malaysia. So by the time I convert that amount, it's enough for me to put a roof on top of my head and things like that. So yes, I do have internship experience. Fyza, do you get some of those experience as well?
Mine is more of, thanks to you, mine is more of a volunteering, but in terms of internship, just bearing in mind that our visa is a student visa and we are only allowed for 20 hours per week. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tian Yan and Myelone. So we're only allowed for 20 hours per week to do our internship. So I think it's more of you negotiating with your employers to what extent can you do your internship. Whatever it is, to prioritize your studies and masters first. Myelone?
Well, for myself, in regards to the internship, upon completion of my course, I took to sort of pursue the area of interest. Since I did medical ethics and law, I got myself attached to an indemnity insurance company to sort of see the insights on how different do they do things there to here. So it was a very insightful experience. So you could do it on an individual level. And also, I think Chevening itself, they offer a few internship roles, like a colleague, a friend of mine from my batch had was offered the BBC internship by Chevening itself, and she was one of the few successful applicants, and she did an internship on BBC Hard Talk with Stephen Saku, and it was a life-changing experience for her as well. So I think there are heaps of internship opportunities out there, and you should make most of it in retirement UK.
Very good. We have a lot of questions. Now, we will do our best to finish the questions here, but if you still have your questions unanswered, remember to reach us out on our social mat. We do our best and we get the rest of the committee members to sacrifice their sleep and weekends and just answer your questions one by one. One from Gurmish again. Am I allowed to pick from any of the 3 universities myself if you receive all 3 offers? First of all, lucky you. Well done. Or will our choice automatically be picked by the secretariat? You get to pick. Right? That's quite simple. I have from Shakira, I will have to accept the conditional offer that was offered to me. Would it be advisable to accept it now or wait for the results from the interview? Okay. If there is a deadline from some university that tells you you have to pay 10% of the tuition fee by this timeline or you will forfeit your seat, explain to them that you are going for the shortlisted for the Chevening Scholarship. They will understand. Get some help from BHC if you have to. This is not the first time that they are taking in scholars. So don't be pressured by some of these timelines. Your source of funding come from the scholarship itself. Okay, very good question. Interesting one from Ramiza. What if there is a 2-week exchange program within the university? Is it possible to join the program as a Chevening Scholar? Depends. Because there's some missing information here where the exchange program will take place, and there are some visa constraints over there. It may not be possible for to answer this question without more detail. When you are a scholar, you will be assigned a program officer. Always consult your program officer. They'll be able to advise you with the policies and the most up-to-date policies for that matter. Okay, just catching up with the chats here. Anyone have seen a quick question that you want to answer? You can just jump right in.
Hi, I think I'm going to share regarding the interviews, since there was some question regarding that. So first of all of the interviewers will actually be British High Commission staff. So there won't be any external alumni who will be interviewing. The names and information regarding the interviewers will only be released once you're in the interview room, so to say. So you won't be able to do any research beforehand. Sorry about that. So this year, all Chevening interviews will be held online from Malaysia. So this will be communicated to you, I think, a week prior to your interview slot. So if you haven't received the interview information, you will be receiving it shortly, and we will be sharing that it will be held fully online. So we would recommend you joining the session a few minutes before or on time, just because all of the interviewers will be in separate chat rooms prior to your interview. So you only need to be online a few minutes before and join the link that we will share in the email. So I hope that answers these questions regarding the interview itself.
Yeah,
Can I add on to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of your interviewers as well, be mindful and be ready that those interviewers are someone who's familiar in your particular industry or your area or your course that you're taking. So be sure that what you're talking are mostly facts and not something that you rely based on assumptions, because sometimes they will ask you further questions based on what you've answered.
Very good point, Fyza. Real leaders don't share fake news. Remember that. Sifa asked an interesting question. Will we be able to see our interviewers? Yasmin, are you all going to just not show your video during the interview, or you will show your faces? And
Sure. So this year we will be turning on our videos for the interviews, but it does depend on connectivity issues as well. But yes, you will be seeing your interviewers for either part of the session or the full session. And I think there's another question that I'd like to answer. So let me just try to bring up the chat box real quick. Okay, so when talking about ourselves in the interview, to what extent do we go deep, or and what would be the cutoff point? So once the interviewers ask the first question, I would say elaborate for perhaps a minute or two. If you think that you've shared enough, then do stop. But if you are going over time, or if you're speaking too much, then we will be interrupting you. I'm sorry, just to keep to time. But don't worry, we will cut you off if it reaches that point.
Thank you. Fyza, go
Um,
ahead.
yeah, that's one interesting question. I think Teh Yan, Myelone, you guys want to answer this. Will the panel ask any questions that are not from our essay?
I think that most of it will be asked from the essay. Of course, if you write such an interesting story, they want to know more. Or if your story was purposefully unclear in some places because you want to trap them to asking that question, well done. Then they naturally would ask a little bit more. So just listen and be prepared for those questions. Myelone?
Well, I think the essay is, I mean, most of them would have got chosen for the essay. So I think the interview is a good time to sort of validate the sort of worthiness and sort of demonstrate the passion and your vision on the story. But in my particular case, they sort of request and caught me off guard. And as we were talking about leadership, and I had mentioned about transformative leadership, and so I sort of unpacked my leadership, and I said my idol is Mahatma, and they caught me off guard by saying, "Can you give me an example of a bad leadership?" So they can, and they just want to sort of see, to make sure your answer is genuine, and to sort of evaluate you on those responses as well.
Very good. Don't be too worried about those. Just keep your calm. It's perfectly okay to say, "Why, that's a good question, one that I've never thought of before. Let's see." Just buy yourself a bit of time and answer the question. Now, there's one where Jia En is asking, just wanted to confirm that we should try not to introduce new examples aside from those in the essays when asked about the 4 pillars, or should we prep more anyway? There's only 30 minutes. You're there because they want to see the author of the essays. So most of the time they would want to know more about you. I'll admit, during my interview, I mispronounced the word Chevening. I said Chevening, and that's a big boo-boo. But you don't have to be an encyclopedia, all right? You just have to be who you are and being the best leader forward. Jasmine asked, when talking about ourselves in the interview, to what extent do we go deep into myself, and what will be the cutoff point? 3 to 4 sentences is a good idea. Fyza, is that? I mean, Myelone, you talk about transformative leadership, and yeah.
For me, I think one of what sort of worked for me was to sort of the interview is going to be basically an extension of your essay, if I may put it, right. So knowing your essay, what you wrote on there, is basically that's what they're going to expand on, and whenever they answer a question or sort of thing due to the time limit, so I sort of integrate my essay, into the bigger picture, and to sort of setting, all sorts of setting, and where introduce examples that is related to the essay, and expand from that. Not really going out of topic, and trying to keep it simple, and keep it basic.
Fyza, do you want to add to that?
No, I think Myelone covers it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Moaz asks, in one of the uni applications, they ask how much the sponsorship will cover an annual amount in GBP. Interesting. I never gotten that before. Do we have an estimate of this? Yasmin, so I only know that it's different between London and outside of London. Could you advise?
Hi there. So I think usually the university would like to know about the tuition fee coverage. So usually you can just put the tuition fee cost. So for all courses at MBA, we will cover the full tuition fee. Just because it changes year by year. I mean, the allocation for personal funding. So for instance, your stipend, changes year by year, so we're unable to share a general number.
Okay. Should we declare during the interview if you plan to apply to a different scholarship? Okay, my advice, yeah. If I'm going to propose to my wife, am I going to tell her that I'm looking at other women as well? There you go. I'm just being cheeky, but yeah, 20 minutes is to assess you as a leader, all right? Maybe there's be a different time for you to have that conversation. That's probably not the best time.
I think most unlikely they won't even ask that question.
Yeah, they most likely won't ask. Okay, so don't project those future problems in present time.
Well, they asked me why Chevening and not the Commonwealth Scholarship, you know, and to answer the question earlier, and I was glad I did my research about Chevening, because had I not known about Chevening, right, and the guy is basically saying, why Chevening, right? I mean, he's not saying why you, but why Chevening. So I think it'll be good to do your research on a bit of the Chevening program as well.
That's an interesting insight, Myelone. Thank you. We actually made it to the last question, surprisingly, and on time. Sabrina Aripan, would my choice of references affect my chances of being selected? Yasmin did answer that the references is a follow-up procedure after that. It wouldn't affect the choice of selection. And Kyvern asked, what contact details should I fill in the university application if they ask about the contact details for the scholarship? Yasmin, would you take this and wrap it up for all of us? Do we still, Yasmin? What contact details should I have filled in the university application if they ask about the contact details of the scholarship? Okay, I guess we have to get back to you on that. So, you know, ask BHC for that piece of information and hopefully they'll be able to advise you. Okay. Folks, we are at 7 p.m. I want to thank Fyza, Myelone for joining us today, Yasmin for putting this together. Great shout out to Zaim, who's in the background, Zaim Mazani. He's the president for Chevening Alumni Malaysia. He's been working in the background, putting all the logistics together. Don't forget about the unsung heroes at the end of it. So everyone, thank you so much for your attention. We wish you all the best. This is all meant to be manageable. So don't stress yourself too much, right? Be the best version you can be and have fun. Thank you.
All the best, everyone.
Best wishes, guys.